With the return of Mega Evolution, Legends ZA introduced 3 new Mega Evolutions for the starter Pokemon, being Mega Meganium, Mega Emboar, and Mega Feraligatr. We're going to be ranking all 3 of these starter Pokemon based on who is the best competitively. It can blend sometimes into what is good in a playthrough, but we are going to be focusing on how strong they are competitively. The first one being Mega Feraligatr, which did get a huge stat increase. Mega Evolutions typically get a 100 BST stat increase, and going from 530 to 630 is honestly not that bad. It's above Pseudo Legendary. His new typing is Water Dragon, meaning that he only really has 2 weaknesses, being Fairy and Dragon. The stat bump is pretty big. He went from 105 to 160 in physical attack. He went from 100 to 125 in physical defense. The special attack stat did get touched, and while you might be thinking, hey man, is 89 versus 160? Yeah, the 89 means you can option select Ice Beam to hit guys like Gliscor, so it's low-key real. Spadef got a solid increase, up 10 points from 83 to 93, but the one thing that did stay the same is speed. Now, this is really important because Feraligatr is meant to be kind of like a wall-breaking, speedy sweeper. In the current climate of competitive Pokemon, if your base speed is 100 below, you're typically deemed as not that fast. Speed tiers and speed power creep has been absolutely insane in the last 2 generations, so 78 isn't really going to cut it. But the bright side is they did make him a lot tankier. This tankiness means that he can use his best setup move, Dragon Dance. After one Dragon Dance, Feraligatr will be outspeeding a lot of common threats, and it's honestly a lot faster than you think, because after one Dragon Dance from 280, his max speed with a jolly beneficial nature, he'll be sitting at 420. That's outspeeding most, if not all, non-scarfers in the OU metagame. Water Dragon is a phenomenal typing though. That is probably the largest buff they did to Feraligatr. He already had Sheer Force Ice Fang, so he was honestly chilling, but the Dragon typing making him a lot tankier to resist some of these obnoxious typings. Feraligatr does also have access to Swords Dance Aqua Jet, one of his most famous bread and butters. So I think the Swords Dance Aqua Jet build genuinely just got better with this. The speed stat is enough to outspeed a lot of tankier defensive Pokemon. Feraligatr does also get Trailblaze, the new Gen 9 grass move, which is essentially Flame Charge but grass. And Feraligatr does also get Flip Turn. So a lot of the brand new move coverages that he's actually gotten throughout the last 2 or 3 years have actually really helped him out here. He does also get access to Scale Shot, a brand new Dragon type move. I would imagine the Swords Dance build to be a lot better than the Dragon Dance build, as +2 160 sounds absolutely menacing than something like Dragon Dance where you're at +1 and you might not be able to outspeed everything you want to. I've typically been a bigger fan of Swords Dance Aqua Jet, and I think that build is going to be absolutely menacing, though I do hope that Feraligatr can get more coverage moves like Knock Off and Close Combat. Not having these big physical breaking moves is a bit unfortunate, but I would imagine that now that Gator is kind of really back in the light, Gen 10 and beyond, I'm really hoping that he does get like Knock Off and Close Combat. I like Mega Feraligatr. I think a lot of his buffs are absolutely really strong, and the typing is really what's going to bring it all together. Now, Mega Meganium is a really important one because Meganium itself has typically been deemed as the worst starter of all time. It isn't really debatable, as there is no other starter that is more poor performance than Meganium. It's inconsistent, even in the playthroughs when you want to use it. I don't know what happened, but they made it to where poor little Chikorita, love her to death, had to face Falconer and Bugsy back to back. Yo, why do we hate Chikorita, man? I've used Chikorita in my Crystal playthroughs several times. I'm just not a big fan of Meganium. I don't really like the design. So seeing the new design does make me like it a bit more than base Meganium, but these stats are really, really good. I want to get that across right away. There's been some controversial takes that Mega Meganium isn't really that good, and I kind of disagree. Yes, you are times more weak to poison, but I mean, this defensive board is insane. You resist water, electric, grass, fighting, ground, dark, and you're immune to dragon. And the big thing as well too is a lot of defensive super bulky Pokemon don't really move that fast. Meganium being at a base 80 speed is actually real. Famously, the problems with Meganium have been that it just doesn't really know what it wants to be. I think Game Freak kind of designed the thing to be kind of like a defensive supportive tank, but it kind of sucks at doing that as it's pure grass with hardly any defensive supportive moves, and let me get into that. Meganium does get moves like Leech Life, but the biggest supportive moves when you look at its opportunity rival like Amoonguss is it doesn't get Sleep Powder at all. I think a buff to this Pokemon getting Sleep Powder would be massive. Leaning more into the defensive tank variant area, where you give this guy more supportive moves to like add on and use these defensive stats, would be insane. But the best success that people are getting from Mega Meganium is the offensive tank build. Meganium received 2 brand new moves in Legends ZA, being Dazzling Gleam and and Earth Power. Now, Earth Power is absolutely massive, as Meganium is more of a special attacker when she Mega Evolves, but it's really big when she Mega Evolves because 143 special attack stat is really big. This means she can now touch steel types and isn't entirely walled by them. The stats all across the board being 80 HP, which is already pretty solid beyond there, and 80 speed, which is surprisingly fast for a tanky defensive Pokemon. The rest of the stats just bring it all together, being 115 in both of the defenses, 92 in physical attack stat, and 143 in special attack stat, which is honestly impressive. I think this does buff a lot of the issues that Meganium did have prior, as regular Meganium didn't really know what it wanted to do, but the new one kind of really brings home an identity that this Pokemon is meant to be like an offensive tank. Adding the fairy type as well too makes it to where that offensive power is a lot more respectable. I think the last two things that can make Meganium a lot better if they were to give her Calm Mind and Sleep Powder. Sadly, she doesn't really get any special setup whatsoever at all. So I think down the line, if they give her Calm Mind and Sleep Powder, this mon could genuinely be an insanely devastating mon. But right now, I do still think Mega Meganium is very strong. Looking at Mega Emboar, this guy is an absolute menace. My personal favorite of the three, but wow, dude, the stat increase on this guy is something you kind of can't ignore. Emboar has already been famously known as a generational wall breaker. He comes in, he has reckless ability, which boosts any moves that do recoil, and he hits stupid hard. If you've played any low tier, you know that Emboar does damage. It's kind of a weird mon that you have to respect, even if he's not that tanky, because he has enough HP to typically live one hit and just boom something. Mega Emboar has kind of made this a lot better because now he's really not that frail. He's already at 110 HP. His attacks has been increased to 148 from 123, which is really respectable. His defense stat got slightly boosted by 10 points at 75 now. Special attack was also increased by 10 at 110, which is actually, out of the three, the best option select. And the special defense jumped so high from 65 to 110, a 45-point increase. That is insane. Speed stat also went up to 75, the slowest of the three. I think Emboar got some solid increases in his stats prior from the regular version to the Mega. Emboar out of the three is the only one that didn't get a typing change at all, still retaining fire and fighting. I know famously a lot of people are very tired of this typing combination. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but the typing offensively is pretty good. That things that resist fighting or are immune to it, like poison, bug, and ghost, fire can hit them neutrally, if not super effectively. Same thing for fire. Fighting type can hit water types for neutral damage and still do a lot of damage to them. The typing complements itself and it's pretty good offensively. Now, the problems with Emboar is 75 is not fast enough. We talked about Gator being at 78 not being fast enough, but Gator has a workaround to it because he feels a lot fatter. The problem with Emboar is his physical defense is still low, so it's a lot more obnoxious to take any sort of use with this 75 base speed. The Spadef bulk up flame charge build has had some decent showings, but it feels like you have to do a lot to get Emboar off the bench. Emboar feels so frail to common typings like ground and water to where you do kind of have to try and go for a bit of a bulkier build. It is my personal favorite of the three, but I do think being weak to ground and water is really hard. When you look at the current meta threats he's gonna have to be going up against, Great Tusk is food for this guy. There is real value you can get from this guy using it on bulkier common meta threats, guys like Raging Bolt, Rillaboom. So there really is no problem with Emboar doing damage. He does it. I do really wish the speed was faster though. I absolutely think all three of these Pokemon are very strong in their own merit. I think in lower tiers, some of these will be better than in higher tiers, and abilities are going to really make or break some of these Pokemon. But to narrow down my final summarization of who I think is the best and worst, sadly, I have to say Emboar is the weakest of the three. I think it's really hard to get that damage off. He's really slow, and ground type is one of the strongest typings in the game right now, something that he struggles with even with that really low physical defense sitting at 75. If they bumped his physical defense a little higher, same with his speed over special attack stat, we would definitely be having different conversations, but sadly they did not do that, and I think Emboar got the short end of this stick. Surprisingly enough, I think Gator is number 2 on the second strongest one. I think Gator's got some promise. Gator has some potential. If that ability comes out, we might be able to see if he can bump number 1 and see how consistent he could be. I think fairy typing is something you can't ignore. Guys like Iron Valiant and Enamorous will make this guy food. There is workarounds with Swords Dance Aqua Jet, but you might find it kind of hard to get that situation consistently off to try and make Mega Gator work compared to other Megas, especially the old returning ones that are very powerful off the get-go. And yes, I do genuinely believe Mega Meganium is the best of the three. A bulky offensive tank with great stat distribution, I think Mega Meganium is truly real. 80 speed being the fastest of the three is something that you can't ignore. This thing's matchup board is absolutely insane, having strong and favorable matchups against guys like Raging Bolt, Dragonite, even Great Tusk and Iron Valiant, challenging even Samurai History and Dragapult. I think Mega Meganium has a phenomenal defensive typing, and she makes great work of it against common meta OU threats, and I'm truly just impressed. I mean, Meganium went from being literally the worst to top dog of the 3 starters. Round of applause for the ones that never lost faith, man. I mean, this thing's rags to riches is something that's gonna be generational. Now, obviously, of course, abilities are going to be the final indication. We are ranking these strictly just off the stats. I think Mega Meganium is absolutely impressed me beyond the waters. Thank you so much for watching this video. It took a lot of work to get this done. If you enjoy content like this, please let me know and leave a like, as it will let me know. We're gonna be ranking the Kalos starters as well too, so stick forward to that. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see y'all.